back in your life like a legendary-ish quarterback who broadcasts on live television, who gets arrested because he can't drive while he drinks alcohol. This is the Fantasy Underbosses here on the Golden Ignorance Podcast Network. Welcome back. We are alive and in moderate shades of color. I am Joe Winkle, joined by my good friend, Don Corleone himself. It is about that time. We are almost, it is a couple days until we hit August, which means we are, oddly enough, we are like a month away from the real thing happening. We thank you for hanging out with us here today. It is episode 4 of the Fantasy Underbosses. Today we have our AFC North preview, but stay with us because this is not our only podcast of the week. We will be dropping another one tomorrow, as well as we are carving through all of our early season preseason content. Don, thank you as always for joining me, my friend. How have you been? How you doing? How's the world?
I'm doing great. I'll tell you what, Jim. I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm glad that we're here together and enjoying each other's company.
Oh, I don't know, Jim. I wish if only he would have said that to the police officer. We've got the AFC North we're going to go through today. We've got some more training camp stories, some stuff that has happened over the last couple weeks. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's head out west to start. And Don, you know what happened over the last couple weeks? So while I took a little hiatus, the most important and drama-filled holdout of the sports calendar ended. And it was Jacoby Brissett signing with the Arizona Cardinals. Somehow he beat LeBron. Arizona, they have a weird quarterback situation. Jacoby Brissett ended the world's most uninteresting holdout, and now it's him. There's videos of Carson Beck not even completing passes downfield in practice to start training camp. Is this even a battle in Arizona for the quarterback position? And how much does it matter who is the week 1 starter?
It doesn't matter because both these guys are going to get reps at some point in time this year, right? I think what Arizona's going to try and do is they're going to try and see what they have for Carson Beck at some point, because I do think that they're going to be generationally bad. And with a deep quarterback class that's coming in next year, you want to have your options open, right? And if you don't think that Carson Beck's the guy that can take you further after this year, you want to know that now, so that way when you go and draft said potential future Hall of Fame quarterback or talented quarterback that could be your starter for week 1 of the 2027 season, you want to get that out of the way now. So I think for Jacoby, I think it's great. He's getting money. He's helping develop some of the guys, and guys like Trey McBride have flourished with him as the starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. But I don't think it matters right now, because by like week 8, it could easily change.
It might not matter for the quarterback spot, but it might matter for targets in fantasy, because Trey McBride, but also Michael Wilson last year when Jacoby Brissett took over, they kind of soared to the moon.
That they definitely did.
So those are guys that'll be, once we get to the NFC West, it'll be interesting to see how much we believe in some, because those two plus, some other few folks, for a team that we expect to be pretty damn bad, they have some pretty tasty fantasy options. Let's head up north. A team in the NFC, another weird quarterback situation, the quarterback dynamic. We're starting to get into, we trek through the mud of the late stages of July, the dog days of summer, and you hear all these content creators doing previews for seasons and breaking down fantasy and breaking down, the actual games. All we can talk about is the quarterback situation in Minnesota. And Kyler Murray is there. After speaking of Arizona, the Cardinals basically paid him to leave, and J.J. McCarthy is just sitting there trying to be a good teammate. Do you think that the Vikings are going to that this is a no-brainer, that Kyler Murray is the no-doubt starter? Or do you think J.J. McCarthy actually has a chance here?
I think McCarthy's kind of like had his chance, and we've seen what he's done with the chance. Like, he's given Justin Jefferson probably his worst statistical receiving season of all time. I think with Kyler, that stuff flourishes, so you got to kind of like look into that. And we've seen what Kyler can do with these talented big big play threat receivers like with DeAndre Hopkins that we've seen in the years past, Larry Fitzgerald. So I think with this, I think Kyler gets the keys early, and I don't think that there's a short leash at all. I think JJ McCarthy is just kind of there to be the backup, and I just don't see him being a starting caliber quarterback for Kevin O'Connell in that offensive scheme of his.
Are you shocked that they have? Let me ask it this way: do you think how long until you think that this is just going to kind of be announced? Hey, it's Kyler week 1. Like, do you think mid-August? Do you think sooner than later? Later than sooner?
I think they'll probably do it around. I would say probably after the second preseason game, so probably in the middle of August, because I think what they'll do is I think they'll do that, and then literally they'll play their all the backups, and I think JJ McCarthy will just play an entire half just to make sure that he still has that capability of being a backup able quarterback in this league. So I think it's more so for McCarthy to kind of like solidify himself a job, because I don't think he has solidified that yet correctly, if I'm not mistaken. So take that with a grain of salt as well.
That is a fair take. Let's head out east to the NFC East, the running back position of the Washington Commanders, who have tried to get younger and tried to get better. And this has been an interesting one. When you look at what their production was last year, everyone's favorite multi-named guy who was a late-round draft pick, who was a little bit overrated, but had better numbers than you would imagine, and that's old Bill Merritt, a.k.a. Ja'Cory Crosby, the artist formerly known by his family as Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt, but to known as us in the football streets as Bill Merritt. Him and Rachaad White are now going to be sharing the backfield in Washington. Chris Rodriguez goes to Jacksonville. White and Merritt are the two running backs in Washington. Do we have any leans as to where we expect fantasy-wise is going to be the better option here between the two?
I think Rachaad White is the better fantasy option just because we've seen what he can do as a pass-catching back, playing alongside someone that can be physical, which, again, Bill Crosby Merritt, Corey Crosby Merritt, whatever you want to call his first name, depends on your situation. I think he's a valuable asset, but he was better without Jaden Daniels on the field last year. And with Jaden Daniels on the field, I do think that Rachaad White is the better fantasy value. But I also do like their rookie running back, Katron Allen, to be the quote-unquote 1-2 punch with Rachaad White, where Katron Allen is this big, forceful runner who gets downhill fast and will make a lot of people miss. And then you got Rachaad White coming out of the backfield as a little speedster, good hands out of the backfield type of ordeal. So I'm curious to see how Washington goes about this, but I don't like Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt or Big Bill as the homies back east call him.
Yeah, when you look at his stats, they're better than you would have. Like, if you would have told me that, Bill Merritt had 800 yards and 8 touchdowns last year, that I would have been like, wait, what are you talking about? Here's the thing, though. 216 yards and 4 touchdowns of all of that is against the Chargers and the Cowboys on Christmas Day. So take that with for whatever what's worth. There's a lot of small numbers in there for him. I think the backfield for Washington is a stay away. I think Jaden Daniels he's a potential buy low candidate this year. We'll talk about them when we get to the NFC East, of course, but just running backs wise, I do agree with you about Merritt or about White. If there's anybody I would take, it would be him, but I'm not taking him if it's like a middle of the draft scenario. I'm not going to waste a valuable pick there on one of the Washington Commanders running backs.
My only other thing that I like is that Rachaad White has a top 5 fantasy PPR running back season in his career. He finished 4th, I believe, in his sophomore campaign. So, that's another thing to look out. We've seen that potential upside for him, where Bill was, like you said, a merchant with half of the games being against bad defenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're looking at 2023. He had 64 catches. He had 990 yards, 6 touchdowns. on the ground, 3 catches, 550 yards and 3 touchdown catches. So, yeah, but the last couple of years, his production has lowered since being tag teamed with Bucky Irving. Rashad White's the better player of the two. That is for
Yes.
sure. Will they decide to use him only? We'll see. Next up, couple rookies here. One drafted in the top 10, one drafted, I think it was pick 19 or 20. Jordan Tyson and Mekhi Lemon, two of the top wide receivers taken in this year's NFL draft. Who do you give the early edge to for having a successful season? Both guys are going to be expected to be more or less probably wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3 entering the season. And then as the season goes on, people will expect them to grow into the wide receiver 2 role. Both teams are probably going to be expected to have good running games, solid offensive lines, um, quarterbacks that maybe you like one more than the other, but both have some question marks in some ways. Where are we feeling about these two rookie wide receivers?
I think I'll lean the edge for Jordan Tyson right now because I think that Kellen Moore offense is going to be firing in all cylinders, especially with like some of the names that they have in there. Like, they bring in Travis Etienne, they still get Alvin Kamara. Bryce Lance is a rookie that you're going to want to know about. He was an absolute stud in college. Chris Olave, like they have a ton of better talent, I think, than Philadelphia on the offensive side, just based off of skill position. But the issue is Jordan Tyson has an injury history. I think Mekhi Lemon will probably play all 17 games this year and be fully healthy. So I lean Tyson right now just because I think the overall talent is better, but I do think that Mekhi Lemon has better durability and has the chance to potentially overtake Devonta Smith as Jalen Hurts' wide receiver 1, where I don't think Jordan Tyson will be getting more targets than Chris Olave in 26.
Yeah, Olave came into last season as a massive question mark, and then he kind of wiped that away with probably the best season he's had as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end here, Lemon, same kind of situation, but for coming in with Devontae Smith now being the number one option with A.J. Brown headed out of town to your team, it's a toss-up for me. I think I like Tyson. I like what he can be, but Lemon, who had a really good year at USC, I I just don't. A part of me thinks that maybe him and Devontae Smith's strengths might be a little bit of redundancy, their positional game at least, because that's two guys that are, 6 feet or smaller. You don't really have an outside receiver in that option unless it's going to be the guy they brought in who was in Dontavian Wicks to play the outside potentially, but he's not much taller than them. So it's a smaller receiver room. I'm going to be interested to see how that works. You could say the same thing about the Saints as well, but for that Olave and Tyson might have some positional redundancy, but I think we've seen Tyson kind of be a little more adaptive, and even Olave last year with the season that he had. All right, moving on to the Tampa Bay Bucks. We head south. More receiver talk. Emeka Buka, after having one of the best opening months as a rookie has ever had in the history of the league when it comes to fantasy football. He is back on the Bucks in year 2. Chris Godwin hoping to get his first fully healthy season in the last couple of years. And he leaned towards the early wide receiver 1 in Tampa Bay, who, boy, oh boy, I can't wait for us to talk about the NFC South because that division is just weird. But also the Bucks, the vibes are not great.
No, that's definitely not great with the Bucks, and we know that. But I do think that Ekbuka is the clear number 1. I think Godwin up there again. Durability. Ekbuka played all the games last year. Godwin's played probably 16 games in the last 2 years based off of injuries. So it's been up and down. I think the issue here is that Ekbuka is going to be labeled the number 1 receiver. They're going to plan for Ekbuka, and Chris Godwin could kind of sneak into potential top 20 fantasy wide receiver role if fully healthy. But I do think that Ekbuka is probably the wide receiver 1 of this squad. So I think I will take him over Chris Godwin.
I agree with you. It's crazy to think that, by the way, 16 games exactly for Godwin. You either cheated and acted like you didn't know, or you are legitimately Rain Man. 7 games 2 years ago, 9 games last year. 938 yards for Ibuka last year, and after the first 5 weeks, he got hampered with that quad injury. Didn't miss a game, but he was clearly hampered, and he still almost had 1,000 yards. It's pretty impressive. He's the real deal. Um, if Baker doesn't regress, I think this offense is still going to be really good. I love the Ken Gainwell addition. Bucky Irving is a guy who's a really good player. Abuka's a superstar. I think their offensive line is solid. Their defense, though, I'm really worried, and I'm also worried when you bring back a coach in Todd Bowles, who maybe they should have fired at the end of last season. So it's like he's on borrowed time. If they start like 1-4, all of a sudden he's going to be shot out of a turkey baster into the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of America, whatever it's called now. Those are two
Yeah.
different bodies of water, but you get what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Uh, Abuka in general, though, I'd have him as wide receiver one. He's the truth. How real quick snap call? How early would you draft him?
10-man, 12-man,
Let's go 10-man.
10-man, probably around 5.
So you think he's definitely a top 50 player.
Based off ADP, yes, he should be.
And I would also say with this too, the Bucks wide receiver one, I mean, over the last X amount of years now since Baker's got there, even with, I mean, Brady obviously, but under Baker as well, I mean, their wide receiver one was Mike Evans. I mean, that's a top 50 worthy player. So Igbuka's definitely trends lean towards it there. All right, divisional preview time. Let's talk about the AFC North. There is some good, some great, some weird, and just some downright trot and disgusting. Let's talk about some good and potentially, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people are going to talk about what they've done on defense. Obviously, this is fantasy. We're not really talking about defense, but I backed the Dexter Lawrence trade. Good job, go team. Let's talk about this offense. They have been supernova mostly when Joe Burrow has been on the field, and that is the first thing we're going to talk about. Can he stay on the field? A couple of years ago, he had the thumb and the wrist. Then last year he has the turf toe. He comes back and they all of a sudden have moments, but then they blow that game in Buffalo, and then the season kind of just peters out after that. Do we trust Joe Burrow to play a full 17 this season?
I do, and him going as QB4 right now, I think is a great spot for him. You know, in the past, on years that he has missed time, if he hasn't played 11 or more games, he's finished in like the top 30. But in games that he's played 16 or more, he's finished in the top 8 to 10 range. So he's been, I think his lowest when playing a full season is QB7, if I was looking at my notes correctly from earlier, based off of PPR rankings. But I think that this is the year that they're healthy. I think Burrow and company are going to have a solid year overall. I expect this to be more of like the 2024, where defensively they're a little bit better, but they're going to be a lot of shootouts. I think Burrow's going to throw for a ton of touchdowns. I think he had 42, 43 that year, maybe close to 5K yards. I expect more of the same from Burrow this year. So I'm going to say yes. I'm buying into him being healthy this year.
They have been every other year. Like it's an even year. So, think about that. Take that for whatever it's worth. I'm with you. I would lean towards it more than against it. How about Chase Brown? Looking at the running back position, I was listening to some stats today talking about how good Chase Brown has been when Joe Burrow's on the field. If he play I don't know what it is. I don't know what would have to happen for the perception of him to be better, but there's a world where Chase Brown is like the best. I know he's still going to be a top 35 pick, more or less, more than likely, maybe a top 30 pick. But Chase Brown is an insane value considering what he's done the last couple of years. Now his numbers are way better with Burrow on the field than off the field, but do you believe that this guy can finish top 10 again for a third straight season? And do you agree with my kind of little small take there about how even though he's still a top 30-ish pick, maybe just outside of the top 30, depending on what kind of draft, where you are, and who whatnot, that his value compared to maybe other top running backs is the best?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say that a guy who finished the last 10 weeks as a top 15 fantasy running back every single week is a bad guy. It's a bad choice. I've been waiting for the fall off. I thought it was going to be this past year. He was even better because they had bad quarterback play, which gave him way more target shares. He had 88 targets last year and 69 receptions, all career highs. He had 5 receiving touchdowns, and then he also had 6 touchdowns on the ground, over 4 yards per carry, over 1,000 rush yards for the first time in his career. I just don't see where he gets worse. And again, there's really no behind him. There's Samaje P. Ryan, who you trust to a degree, Taj Brooks, who hasn't done it, Gary Brightwell, who hasn't done anything in this league. So there's a big scenario where, like, how do you not feel confident about this, right? So I like all the moves that they've done. They got their offensive line better, which I think helps the rushing attack for him specifically. Where he's getting drafted, it is hard to not believe in a PPR format that he can't be a top 5 fantasy running back this year with this offense. And he's getting drafted, I believe, outside of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to running backs.
I expect his receiving numbers to probably drop a little bit, but if Burrow played a full season, just because Burrow isn't, he gets a lot of those target shares from the fact that it's Jake Browning and Joe Flacco throwing some, back foot just to dump it off plays. Burrow's never really going to do that. Not going to do that quite as much. Regardless, though, Brown has been just about as good of a bang for your buck option as you can get over the last few seasons. And it's the fact that he's now potentially going for a third straight top 10 year. It's incredible, and he's one of the more underrated players, even though he's still a top 10 player or top 10 to 15 player drafted at his position. Very underrated considering what he does, or how people talk about him. Lastly, here we mentioned the receiving option, or first time we mentioned the receiving options here. Of course, Jamar Chase, who's probably going to be in the case for one of the top receivers taken. When you look at coming into this season, it's definitely going to be him or JSN, maybe Puka Nacua, depending on what kind of laundry detergent you use for your colored clothes. T. Higgins obviously is a guy that has had some good moments and had some bad moments. Last year he finished tied for second in the NFL in touchdowns. Did Higgins, Jamar Chase last year, lower touchdown, but he did have over 1,000 yards, or 8 touchdowns. He had just over 1,400 yards for Chase. Do we continue to ride him and Higgins as fantasy options? Do we take some potential dips into other guys in this offense, or obviously Chase being one of the top fantasy options there is? He's a no doubter, but what are you looking at when it comes to the rest of the mouths that have to be fed on the Cincinnati offense when it comes to receiving the football?
I mean, the only one that I really like is Higgins, because in the seasons where Burrow's healthy, he's the top 20 fantasy wide receiver, right? Like, we've seen it in the past. He's had these high seasons, but also, too, the biggest thing is he's very touchdown high. Like, he gets a ton of touchdowns every single year. If you look at his time, right, you look at the stats in his career, if I look at it, right, if I can see it, as I'm trying to look at it year by year, this is the second straight year where he's had 10-plus touchdowns. He's gotten his worst was 5, and that was by far his worst fantasy year. Other than that, he's gotten over 1,000 receiving yards twice. He's 4 times he's been over 100 targets. The double-digit touchdowns are definitely helping him spike up the board. But even before that, if Burrow's healthy, man, he's going to get a ton of looks because Chase is going to get doubled, and T. Higgins usually gets the one-on-one coverage, which helps him. So I do think that, like, when you get into the draft board and you get into, like, the nitty-gritty and you kind of need that wide receiver 3 or that flex, T. Higgins is a great option here. He's not a consistent wide receiver 2, in my opinion, just yet. It could be as the season progresses. But, again, has had more than 74 receptions in the season. If he can get up in the 80-plus, he's an instant top 15 fantasy wide receiver every single year. It's just he can't get up into that consistency. Once he gets into that consistency, he'll be an elite fantasy option week in and week out. It's just the consistency's not there. So I like him, just not as a wide receiver 2. I like him as a wide receiver 3, flex spot, or lower.
Yeah, that's the thing with him is the inconsistencies. Chase, no doubter, obviously you're starting him every day of the week, twice on Sundays and days that end in Y. Higgins, it's like, okay, I feel good, but I mean, I know he finished with 850 yards last year and 11 touchdowns, but last year was more of a touchdown dependent season than the year prior. And you have some games where it's like, well, he rolls out of bed, he's got, 5 catches for 60 yards, which is okay. Sometimes he'll have 6 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. Sometimes he'll roll out, it'll be, 1 catch for 44 yards in a game where the team scored 38 points. And you're like, why did he only have 1 catch? So it's a roller coaster sometimes. And that's where you can get burned, and that's why Higgins, for me, I'm always scared to draft him. Also, too, with him, I remember drafting him one year, and it was that same exact thing. It was like, okay, this you have this guy, and he's fun, and then all of a sudden you're trying to spin the roulette wheel on. Oh God, do I play him this week? I like to make sure that I try to draft players that I feel like I know that if I'm going to play them, they're going to try to produce. They're going to produce. Higgins sometimes it's just the life of a number 2 receiver, man. It works in mysterious ways. All right. Moving on. Before we move on, Don, I think we got some bills to pay if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Definitely do. All right, so this episode of the Fantasy Football Underbosses is brought to you by our friends over at BetVisors. Are you tired of paying for picks and hoping to see results? Check out BetVisors, the platform that's changing the game with their tip if it hits model. You can follow verified handicappers, see transparent records, win rates, and profit history, and only tip when a pick actually wins. There's no expensive subscriptions, no paying for losing plays, and just real bettors, real results, a real community, and complete transparency. Whether you're looking for expert analysis, proven cappers, or a smarter way to tail picks, BetVisors puts accountability first. Visit app.betvisors.com and start betting smarter today.
Thank you to our friends over at BetVisors for powering this edition of the Fantasy Underbosses here on the Golden Ignorance Podcast Network. All right, let's keep the train rolling with the Cleveland Browns. This is the something ugly of the NFC North. Is what when you get married and the wife has something old, new, barred, and blue. Well, I don't know what this technically would be for the Browns. The worst part of that, but it's not pretty. Um, let's start with we're going to try to talk. We're going to talk a lot about. There's 2 pieces of this puzzle that we really like, and the rest of the puzzle pieces are very not fun. So let's at least start with one of them. Let's start with the running game and Quinshad Judkins. I think this offensive line has the potential to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a terrible unit, but I think they could be good. Judkins last year had some moments. Do we have trust in him again to back it up as in his sophomore campaign and be a reliable option going into 2026?
I think so. I think with Monken and the way that he likes to scheme up, I think offensively, their run game will be good, and I think that style of offense will help Quinshon Judkins perform at a high level. We saw him. Listen, when he can get over 4 yards of carry, he's a dangerous runner. Unfortunately, last year he averaged only 3.7. In the what was it? Was it 14 some change? Did he play that many games? I don't remember. Like he played. It was between 10 and like 15. I know
14.
that.
He did play 14 games.
Okay, so between that, I mean, listen, he's got potential there. I do like him. I think he can be very good for this offense, and where this offense can be moving forward. I'm probably taking him as my RB3 or a flex spot based off of what I've seen so far. And just because I do think, like Joe said, the offensive line will be a little bit better this year. I need to see it consistently. If I can see the offensive line being better consistently, I'll be a little bit more confident in playing him every week. But until then, I'll be cautious of drafting him, but I wouldn't be drafting him as my RB2. If that makes sense.
No, if he's like your top bench running back though, or a flex option, like a guy that you can be like, on a pinch, I can put in he's worth it. He did end the season kind of poorly last year. His final 3 games, 26, 21, and 22 yards, and then gets hurt in week 15, the Sunday before Christmas, or weeks. That might have been week. Might have been week. Yeah, I think that was week 15. The Sunday before Christmas, he ends up getting hurt. this offensive line has improved. They go out and get Elton Jenkins from the Packers. That he's going to play center for them. They go out and get Spencer Fano in the draft, the tackle from Utah. So I think this offensive line has improved. Munkin's a good coach. I think he's got some good stuff. So we'll see. Maybe he can eventually be more than that. Maybe he can actually crack into that top 20, 24 in the running back world. But I think he's definitely kind of what like Tony Pollard the last couple of years has been, right? Not a bad player, but a guy that you can trust there's worse guys that you can have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Somewhere in that 25 to 35 range where it's just like, okay, well, if I need to actually play a third running back this week, I could do way worse.
Exactly.
Moving on here for the Browns, this offseason, or this draft season, I should say, they had a lot of holes to fill. They go out and get tackle. And in the second round, they go out and knock out two really, really touted wide receivers. One that, or was one of them in the third?
Concepcion was the 24th pick.
Okay, you're right. My fault. They were both in like a 10 pick range, I believe, though. So that's why I was confused. My apologies. They go out and get two receivers between picks 24, and I think the other one was like 36 or 37, maybe like 40. Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, one that I actually really like. The other I think you really like, but I think we both like both guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have trust in one more than the other? What are we expecting from these two production-wise for a receiver room that really, really needed help?
I think the only worry I have about Denzel Boston is seeing the track record of Washington wide receivers over the last couple of years. So obviously, like besides the Roma Duzes of the world, like it has been great. I think Casey Concepcion just fills what they need: someone to play the slot that's got speed, hands, and can easily break tackles. So I think that Concepcion is going to get a plethora of work. I think Boston on the outside will be good. Judy on the other side. I think they have three talented wide receivers that either Deshaun Watson or Shadur Sanders will be throwing the football to this year. However, I do think right now in draft season, in the later rounds, if I have to pick, they're kind of around the same ADP, but I think I would take Concepcion because I think he has the potential to get close to, if not 100 plus targets this year.
I think that's a fair take. Do we think Judy could have another, like a bounce back to what he had? Obviously, 2 years ago was a bit of not just a bit. It was a pretty insane outlier. 1,200 yards. What he finished with 145 targets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that coming from the end of the season when Jameis Winston just said, "I'm going to find this man and we are going to be best friends forever."
Yep.
But he did have 100 targets last year. I know the quarterback play is still incredibly sporadic, depending on who gets the nod. But do we think Jerry Jeudy can kind of come back as a fantasy option this season?
I don't, because I do think that like last year it was Jerry Jeudy and then Harold Finn, and that was it. Now, getting these two rookie wide receivers, I think Monken's going to see what he's got early and often, and I do think that they're going to take some significant touches away from him.
Speaking of Harold Fannin, I don't know about you, man, but I cannot wait to see I cannot wait to see what Todd Monken does using this guy because he's got a lot of skills. And last year he was able to show them off: 730 yards and 6 touchdowns, over 100 targets, 72 catches. This dude's the real deal. And Monken, I think, is going to use him in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, he finished as tight end 6 last year, right? I'm high on him. I think he's got a top 5 upside. Looking at where he's going and the tight ends going before him, like they have Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren in a tier above him, which I don't agree with. I think he's right up there with them. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Colston Loveland's about to put up probably the best statistical season that a Bears tight end has had in a very long time. But I don't think that Fannon's far behind. Like, I know the projections they have, I think Loveland they have in PPR format like 20 points ahead. But listen, I think he's a top 5 fantasy tight end. I think he's worth it. If you can't get one of him, Loveland, Bowers, or McBride, I'm not as high on Tyler Warren as we went over because of the quarterback play. If you can't get them, there's a couple guys later on that could be the Harold Fannin of last year. But I really like this guy this year. I would be trying to take him. And it's one of those things where, again, you hate to have so many players on bad teams, but you got to remember, if you're in shootouts, these guys are going to get targets, and they could be in shootouts with their schedule. So I'll trust Harold Fannin in 26.
I don't think. Okay, so real quick, snap call. Do we think Deshaun Watson's going to start week 1, or do you think it'll be Shador?
I do.
So we both think it's Deshaun.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just.
Looking at this schedule, Deshaun probably plays up until after the Jets game.
So do you
do
you think he'd actually be bad enough for that to happen though?
I just think they're gonna go. They can go 1-4, and then Monken goes, "Okay, I'm gonna see what I have at your door," and just go from there.
That's fair. If he's not playing well, it's been a while since this guy's played well. I mean, Deshaun was one of my favorite players in the league when he was in Houston, and then things got weird. Let's just put it that way, for lack of better terms. He loved them special types of hugs. Anywho, you feel like a professional like that can find a tight end, or I'm just trying to think like which one of these two guys playing quarterback could buddy ball Fannin. Shador had a lot of run, and there's a lot of these games. Him and Fannin did have a pretty solid rapport in the 8 games that he played. Fannin's got a couple games here as I'm looking through their their game logs from last season. In the 8 games that he played, Fannin's got a couple in the 10-plus target range, 5 or 6 targets here, pretty much every week at least. So those are. I'm trying to think if Fannin can become if you're in a tight end premium league, and Fannin could be a guy that gets buddy balled with one of these two quarterbacks, and he gets 130 targets. You're sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, we're rocking." Because I agree with you that Loveland, I think, is going to have a huge year, and I think Bowers and McBride are also fantastic, especially if Brissett's playing. I don't think McBride's going to have 10 or 12 touchdowns, whatever it was again, like he did last season. However, he was actually utilized with Brissett, and I think that's going to be a huge thing. But I think you're right. I think Fannin is right on the doorstep of that. I think he can have more. He could lead the league for tight ends and catches. That's a possibility, don't you think?
I don't disagree with you. I mean, also too, when you look at the numbers of where guys are with, Deshaun Watson being the starting quarterback. If you look at his teams, he's had tight ends that have finished as his number 1 target. So it's one of those things where I don't hate it, no matter if it's Watson or Shador. I just think, again, David Njoku was a great tight end for them, and he was getting wide receiver 1 targets a couple years ago when Deshaun Watson was playing 6 games and they started off 5-1. You know what I mean? So it's little stuff like that. I think that they can get there, and I do think that there's a world where Fannin's good no matter what. I'm just curious to see who the starting quarterback is.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to maybe not great, but good plus, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. New head coach Jesse Minter. I mean, it was the year from hell last year for the Ravens, missing out on the postseason, finishing under 500. And it really kind of just all floats to Lamar Jackson. And after 2 years ago, he had probably the best year of his career. He had 4,100 yards. He should have won MVP, not Josh Allen. That's just my take anyway.
Josh Allen should have won the year before.
23. Was that a Mahomes MVP?
It was Lamar, wasn't it?
No. Lamar's only MVP was yeah, that was Lamar. You think Josh Allen should have won MVP that year? Interesting.
23, yeah.
Interesting. That's
where my head's at.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, 3,600 yards for Lamar, 24 touchdowns. He had 5 rushing touchdowns with 821 rushing yards. But if you look at Josh Allen that year, he had 4,300 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and then he had 15 rushing touchdowns and 500 rushing yards.
I think just the fact the Ravens that year finished with like the best record in the league, that probably was what pushed it over the edge. But I agree. I do remember. I do remember now that being a take that people thought the MVP should have been switched.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, for Lamar, last year another weird year for him. Misses some games due to injury, and just doesn't really play well. It's not even. I mean, statistics weren't great, but like he just wasn't what he had been. Like even in the games that he was playing, and you knew he was healthy, he had not. He did not play well at all. Where are we at with Lamar Jackson coming into 2026?
I'm a little worried, only because, again, he's a top 40 fantasy player that you take in drafts. He's the top 2 quarterback that you take. We're getting into that age 30 season where he's been really good after injuries, though. And here's my big thing. The one time that he had a real injury was 21, and then he got hurt again in 22 and missed some time. So I'm expecting him to miss a couple games this year. And when he misses time, he's an outside of the top 10 fantasy quarterback. If he plays all 17, he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. We know it. We've seen it. But I'm getting a little worried with that age. So I'm being wary of it. Personally, I think that there are quarterbacks that you can get later that I would probably prefer based off of, age, injury history piling up on him. And I just think the workload, because he's been working so hard and having to do this, that, and that. I know getting Derrick Henry, and we'll get into him in a second, helped, but he's still carrying a heavy load of this offense. So I don't know. I'm a little wary on Lamar Jackson this year, and I know people are going to be like, oh, why are you going to be wary on a guy who, if he plays a full 17, is a top 5 fantasy quarterback every single year? Well, because if the trends can continue, the last time that he got hurt and missed that, he did the same thing the following season. It was outside the top 15. So,
do you think there's 68 players in the NFL better than Lamar Jackson?
I mean, no. That was just preposterous.
Oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. I don't watch the NFL 100. I think it's stupid. Some of them I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I just think it's dumb. We have learned more times than not. We've learned over and over again that nobody knows if the people we should trust less on opinions for the rest of the league, oddly enough, is the players. They would not make good GMs. They would not make rational decisions. Lamar at 69 was wild. Joe Tooney was at like 51 or 49 or something, and I was like, this is preposterous. That wasn't me trying to be a Bears homer. I was just like, this is not 48 players alive better than that guy. But it's okay. Sorry, I had to get a Bears take in. Been a while. I feel better now. Derrick Henry. It's been one hell of a ride for this guy. The ageless wonder, though he's only 32. You would think he's 42 sometimes with how people might talk about him. He is coming off of another amazing season. At a weird start to the year, but 4th in carries at 307, which is his out of all of his years. So he has played he's played 10 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years he's had over 300 carries. Last year, 4th in league in carries, 2nd in yards and touchdowns, just under 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns. Do we trust that the king himself can do it again? Another 300 carry season, top 5 running back in yards and touchdowns. Is it death taxes Derrick Henry at this point?
I mean, if the trend continues itself, the last 4 years, he's gone from being RB4 to RB8 to then RB4 to then RB8. So should we expect an RB4 year? I don't know. But again, the last 5 out of the last 7 seasons, this guy's had over 300 carries, and one of them he probably would have had 400 carries if he didn't get hurt in 2021. Like, this guy has been an absolute workhorse. It's kind of hard not to, especially with Baltimore, dude. He's averaging close to 6 yards a carry with this Baltimore offense. It's crazy. He was 5.2 last year. He had 15, just under 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns. Double-digit touchdowns are going to be a must. He's going to have it. We know the price you're getting him at, man. It's not bad. Because if he can get it to that level of consistency still at his age, he's a top 10 fantasy running back, and you're getting him at RB probably, I'm looking at it, probably 13. It's just great value. I'm trusting him. I'm hoping it's not 100. I'm hoping it's not another 300 plus for like his body's sake. But I hope that I hope that I can get enough stock where I can be like, yeah, I get Derrick Henry again. So
I didn't. And for Baltimore, I just want to say this. So they fire John Harbaugh. They go get Jesse Minter. I like Jesse Minter a lot. I was very boisterous though that I did not like Baltimore hiring Jesse Minter just for the fact that it was redundant. Like they fired Harbaugh to go get a Harbaugh guy. Like why? That made no fucking sense. But I think Minter's really good. So at the end of the day, I'm probably the one with the wrong take. They did go snatch Declan Doyle from the Bears though as the OC. And I say that to say this. I don't I you worry sometimes new head coach, who's going to be calling plays, is there going to be some sort of drop off in how things go? I actually think that the running schematics are still going to be pretty damn good. And obviously when you have 22 and 8 back there, that makes a whole hell of a lot of difference just in general. But I think, you know, Doyle and his comeuppance with Peyton and now Ben Johnson, I think he's good. He's learned a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to run game, X's and O's. So I think Derrick Henry is going to be in good spots this season. Let's talk about their wide receivers, though. And oddly, I'm just going to be out. It's a position group that I don't love. Are you with me on this? It's a position group that this is going to be what year 4 now, where we're probably going to be sold a pre-draft bill of goods for Zay Flowers. Now, granted, he had his best year last year, top 10 in yards for finished 11th in catches, but I don't know, man. Is that a new trend or is that an outlier? Which I think it will be. I think we get sold this every season, and Zay Flowers is just the type of guy where it's like, if he's going to be good, it'll be on someone else's team, and I'm not going to lose sleep over it. What say you?
I mean, this. Listen, I've been the biggest Zay Flowers hater since he's come into this league because of where he went to school, where he got drafted, and stuff like that. I think with this offense, dude, I think he can fucking flourish. I think him, Mark Andrews, would be good. And again, I'm high on their rookie wide receiver, Jacoby Lane, who I think will take that big step forward. I like this. This probably might be my favorite room that Lamar's had in his time as the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. I'm buying a little bit into this. I'm buying a little Zay Flowers. I'm going to tell you right now, Jacoby Lane's going to be a stud at like the week 3, week 4 waiver wire that you're going to want to take if you don't take him late rounds of the draft. I think he's got potential, man, where he can finish as a top OnlyFans receiver this year. To be honest with you.
Little Jacoby Lane, little Elijah Surratt red zone action. The resurgence of Mark Andrews. Maybe you're going to sell me.
He's got no He's got no Isaiah Likely. Who's going to take time away from him?
So are you saying Mark Andrews is a sleeper tight end candidate this season?
Where he's getting drafted, yes. Why wouldn't he be?
Mark Andrews is a Hall of Fame buy low, right? Like this is a guy that has been like a legitimate top tier tight end. So if you're going after him, it's a very, the writing would be on the wall technically.
He had a career low in receiving yards, and they didn't have consistent quarterback play last year. In bad years, he's bounced back and been a top 10 fantasy tight end every other year after that. So I'm buying it. I'm taking it.
There we go. You win the vote. I've been kicked off the island for my take on the Ravens receiver room. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Down there or whatever, however you say it. Mike McCarthy comes in. Aaron Rodgers' swan song. We all are intrigued. We all know this. If they go 9-8 again, we can't blame Mike Tomlin.
Yep.
That's all I know about that. All right, let's look at this team, and let's start with the running back position. Out goes Kenneth Gainwell. Enter Rico Dowdle. And let's start with this. Rico Dowdle, Jalen Warren. Do we trust either one of them to be a consistent potential running back one? Let's start with, and do you think any of these guys can flirt with that in general? And then, or do you even feel like it's going to be clear cut as who running back one just on the Steelers is early on in the season?
I think it's going to be Rico because we've seen it. Last 2 years, Rico's had over 1,000 yards rushing. He ended up being the RB1, even though he split in times with Chu Hubbard last year.
The second half of his season last year was stupid, and it carried me in a league that an all-timer fantasy snipe for me, or like a waiver wire snipe for me last year.
Listen, He's a guy where I think where McCarthy's offensive scheme is, I think that he fits that style of play better than Jalen. I think the worst thing that happened for Jalen Warren was Mike McCarthy getting hired. Because what's going to happen is Rico Dowdle's going to start playing 75, 80% of snaps. Jalen Warren's going to go down to 20, 25, and his production's going. Don't get me wrong, Jalen Warren had almost 1,000 rush yards last year. He was a top 20 fantasy running back. Both guys top 20 fantasy running backs last year. Rico Dowdle has the better body of work. I'll take Rico.
I agree with you. I like the potential of that much more than the opposite. And I will say this, man, bringing in McCarthy, even if I don't love Warren that much, I think Dowdle is a very capable guy. It's the best offensive coaching they're probably going to have had in the last few seasons. And this offensive line is good. Like, it's legit good. Jones and Fontenot at tackle. Zach Frazier at center is a solid player. They got some good guys up front, and this is a team that I think could pound the ball this season. They upgraded at receiver as well, but which we're gonna close talking about their receiver room here. But let's start with DK Metcalf, who last season, oddly enough, the most polarizing thing he did in his first season with the Steelers was slap a Lions fan. He did have 850 yards. He had less than 60 catches. He had 6 touchdowns. It was the lowest output season he's ever had as a professional. Do we think he can bounce back? Do we expect him to? He hasn't been a top 20 fantasy receiver. I have down here. You said in 3 straight seasons after a great start to his career in Seattle. Do we think he can bounce back? Do we think that he can get back into the island of relevancy in 2026, Mr. Metcalf?
I hope so because I like the guy, but it's just we've been steady declining for years now. And it's kind of like this is supposed to be the prime of your career. You're having these bad numbers, like that's not giving me promise. You know what I mean?
Remember how fun it was when he was young, like his early years in Seattle, and every week this guy was just doing crazy shit.
Yeah, like in 2020 when he had 1,300 receiving yards. Everybody thought he was just going to be this
pick sixes.
The next coming of fucking DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think the only thing I like for him this year is their new offensive coordinator, who was the former passing games coordinator for the Vikings for Kevin O'Connell. So I could see where like Metcalf could get that small bump, but again, with the inconsistent quarterback play, with Aaron Rodgers still at the quarterback, I just don't see it. So I'm out on DK, especially. You're getting a wide receiver 33. You're basically taking him to be a backup wide receiver anyways. So
it's a fair point. It is a fair point. I couldn't like this is another one of those teams where it's like I can't draft one of these guys and expect it to just work. I would draft Rico Dowdle late, but I couldn't see myself drafting one of these receiver options. What about Michael Pittman? They go out and get him. Do you expect is maybe some of your pessimism with Metcalf the fact that you think Pittman could be a seamless fit here? Or is it just this offense, this team as a whole? Do you think finally the bottom falls out on this organization a little bit?
I mean, don't get me wrong. DK Metcalf has been a target machine. Obviously, last year he had under 100 targets for I think the first time in his career. Michael Pittman's gotten 110 plus targets since every year since 2021. So I'm buying a little bit because I do think that he's going to be the number one option, I think. And I think that he's going to get a little bit more open in this kind of thing where I kind of like him as like the Jordan Addison type role for this offense because of the passing game coordinator skill that their new OC has had with Minnesota. Like I think he could be like 115 to 120 targets, probably around the 75 to 80 reception range, and then anywhere between 750 and 850 receiving yards with hopefully maybe a career high in touchdowns. Maybe he finally gets to double digits. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'll take him as a buy low spot, like a bench receiver that I kind of need just to play for 1 week, you know, where I have probably, let's say, hypothetically, I'm taking it, and Amon-Ra St. Brown or Justin Jefferson in that week 6 bye. They have I think they that week 6 matchup, I believe, is probably one of their better ones. If I'm not mistaken. I think they go at Tampa Bay. Like I kind of like that spot for them. So I think I buy low on Michael Pittman and kind of just like stay away from DK.
It's a room that you won't see me probably like dabbling in at all. Like I said, maybe some Pat Fryermuth, maybe as like
Listen,
a backup tight end.
how about some potential Jeremy Bernard by like week 9 when they just finally say, hey, we're just going to play this guy because people think he's going to be the next Mike Wallace.
Well, that was fun for about 5 minutes.
Have you seen that comparison?
I've not. That's the first I've heard of that. Shout out to Mike Wallace. Oh man, the guy that mentored Antonio Brown. Maybe all of his issues are we should blame on Mike Wallace. The original crazy man. Bernard, I mean, I don't remember did you like him coming into the draft?
It was the fit. I needed a good fit for him. I was hoping he went to like the Denvers or like the like Tampa Bays or the Jacksonville's.
A team that needed an X receiver.
Yeah.
Not a team that has now 2 X receivers.
Well, 3 if you want to count him.
Exactly, yeah, 2 in front of him. Aaron Rodgers at age 42.
Oh,
rest in peace.
Don't even ask. Hell of a career. Hall of Famer for sure. But like his mentor Brett Favre, he should have retired 3 years ago.
More than likely, 'tis the case. But yeah, I feel bad for kind of going under the whimper here with Pittsburgh, but it's just not they're just unaesthetically pleasing, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like if there was ever a year that this team was going to just kind of be ugly and not really, it'd be this year finally.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to? Who knows? They've find a way to pull stuff out of their ass all the time. Who knows? Maybe DK Metcalf is going to. Maybe it won't be the yards. DK Metcalf's just going to have like 14 touchdowns.
Maybe we'll see.
They're because they know it's Aaron Rodgers' last year. Every goal line snap, they're going to aura farm like Matt Stafford did last year on the goal line.
That shoulder fade to DK Metcalf.
And just throw fades to Metcalf like Stafford did to Devontae.
And then all of a sudden he ends up with like 50 catches for 720 yards and 17 touchdowns.
Exactly, yes. The greatest touchdown to reception ratio in the history of the league. Just like, this makes no sense, but it works. So that'd be funny. All right. Well, it's another episode down, our first of 2 this week. We're going to post this on Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll drop our next episode. I believe it is I think it's our final AFC one, right? We have the AFC, the AFC East, right? Okay.
Yeah,
so
and then when we go next week, we're going to finally get into Joe's division of the NFC North to get his 45-minute rant about the Chicago Bears fantasy value this year.
I won't go that crazy, but I will say the NFC North is maybe the best division in fantasy football, ?
You can make the argument.
Maybe. It's also just the best division in regular football, period.
Make an argument. The AFC West is kind of good.
That it is. Real quick, before we do get out of here. So we mentioned we got 2 episodes this week. We're probably going to keep banging 2 out. We're going to maybe try at least to figure some stuff out, doing 2 episodes here throughout the next few weeks as we inch closer to the season.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to start doing some other content, though. We are doing some Substack work. Don, you want to tell them about that real quick before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of did this last year, but now that, we're doing more of the podcast view, we're going to do it a little bit differently this year. So we're doing what we call the fantasy forecast. So basically for the entire month of August and then the first 2 days of September, because it's 32 teams, all that fun jazz. But basically what we do is we give you our must-drafts, our busts, and our sleepers for each team, just to kind of give you like a little forecast right before the season starts, just to give you a little bit of a taste of what we got coming up here for the writing aspect of our stuff as well. And also, too, what we'll be doing by the end of August, I think we're going to start doing our yearly rankings where we're kind of ranking everybody as a group. So quarterbacks 1 to 32, top 50 running backs, top 50 receivers, top like 32 tight ends, and then defense and special teams and kickers and stuff. We'll do more of like a week to week basis on guys that we like, matchups that we like for defense and special teams, just to kind of like give you guys that love to do the defense and special teams types of leagues some content as well. And then I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and build here. I think we have a good foundation. I think that we believe what we're selling to you guys. And again, I have this bad boy to prove that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to fantasy sports. So we want to continue to do this. We want to continue to grow with you guys. Please make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, following us on Twitter at FF Underbosses, following Joe on Twitter at Joe the Show QCSN, following myself at TJones21212. And again, just like the content. Let us know what we like. DM us. Let us know if you guys have questions. If you guys have, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place every single week. We'll be here. We'll be here to listen. We'll be here to give you everything that you need fantasy football related for the 2026 season to help you win your leagues.
Exactly. So make sure to follow that. We're going to be posting more on the Twitter here as well. We're getting more into becoming alive for the seasons again, so we're going to start being more active on Twitter and just to post all of our content and whatnot. Don has a mind and his fingers work more than mine do, that's for sure. So he bangs out some more stuff than I can even think to imagine. I thought my content brain was nuts, and this guy's is pretty crazy. So it's a good motivation to have someone that's rocking like this. I'm excited for what we got brewing for you. Make sure to find the Substack. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, and of course, like and subscribe here on YouTube. For my guy, DC himself, the Don Corleone, I'm Joe Winkle. We'll see you guys next time. Tomorrow, actually, here on Fantasy Underbosses for another divisional preview. We are out. Thank you for watching. See you later.
App.bedvisors.com.